Hello fellow humans and welcome to the Madhouse. I'm Josh. Today I wanted to pay my respects to my favourite author, Sir Terry Pratchett, who sadly passed away on the 12th of March 2015. For those of you who don't know, Pratchett wrote over 70 novels and over 85 million books in over 37 languages, but he's most famous for his Discworld series. Discworld is a flat world that rests on the back of 4 colossal elephants who stand on the back of a 10,000 mile long turtle. It is the only world where an elephant is required to cock a leg to let the sun go past and where arrangements must be made to ensure all of the water doesn't run off the edges. I'm actually wearing this lilac. Well, it's not really a lilac because lilacs aren't in season yet, but it's a lilac styled badge in his memory. If you've read his book Nightwatch, you'll know that lilacs are a flower used in memory of the Glorious Revolution, and it's a very potent symbol. Without further ado, it is in honour of Sir Terry Pratchett's writing, and in particular this magnum opus, that I have created this tag video. Here follows a series of Pratchett creations and questions based on them. Number 1, Great Tatooine, and the question for this is favourite or most obscure planet or world in a series. I think it's going to have to be whatever the planet in A Song of Ice and Fire is called. It's remarkable. There must be some sort of elliptical or otherwise irregular orbit to have such strange seasons, to have summers that can last 7 years. It doesn't make sense to me. So unless it's merely because of magic that it happens, which is slightly less interesting when it's still fascinating all the same. Number 2, most badass character in literature. There are several I'd like to choose from, and ideally I'd like to do one from my own book, but I have yet to finish writing it and get it published, so it would really not be particularly fair. I've decided then that I shall head over to the Wizarding World. Now, Molly Weasley was my favourite character in the Tolkien tag, but Professor McGonagall is the most badass apart from Weatherwax. Not only is she a good teacher and a capable headmistress, she tries to defend Hagrid from Umbridge and gets 4 stunning spells to the chest and still recovers fairly quickly, but also she fights off Snape and the Carrows. To do that requires a lot of power and a lot of strength, and she's still strong and stays fighting. She is an awesome and slightly terrifying character, the best sort of teacher to have. Number 3, Lord Havelock Vetinari, favourite fictional ruler. Again, this is a tough one. If this were about film and television, it would be somewhat easier. I would happily say President Bartlett from The West Wing, because Martin Sheen is frankly amazing. I'd probably end up going with Lucifer or Satan in Paradise Lost. He's the Prince of Darkness and ruler of Hell, formerly the Lightbringer. He fell so far and rebelled against the higher power and committed the ultimate crime, but I feel for him. He seems to be there as a foil for God, in my view, to stop him from going too far and doing another flood. Plus, let's face it, Prince of Darkness is a very cool title for anyone who wants to rule anything. Death. Favourite anthropomorphic personification of a fundamental force. Wow, that was a bit of a mouthful. If you don't know what an anthropomorphic personification is, look it up. It's a bit complicated to explain. But I'd have to say Death again, but not the Pratchett one this time. That would probably be cheating too much. It's Death in The Book Thief. It's such a fascinating book anyway, and it really does tug at the heartstrings. But Death's way of seeing the world is fascinating in all those colours. To see a person's life in shades of blue and green and purple and anything like that, it's such a wonderful way of seeing the world, and I would like to find out more about it. Number 5, and Omniism. Favourite fictional religion. This one's simple. I mean, it's actually based on a real-world philosophy. Fordism from Brave New World. A philosophy that dictates the fate of an entire world with mass-produced people. Fascinating, and it makes rational sense, but there are some times when you simply cannot and absolutely should not depend on logic. It's a philosophy that is so possible to do in modern technology. It could be a very real prediction of the world as it is, and that's why it's my favourite, because it affects everyone. Number 6, Lobsang, the one part of the personification of time in Pratchett's Thief of Time. I mean the Tibetan motorcycle repairman reincarnated into a supercomputer in the Long Earth series. And the question for this is favourite fictional computer or artificial intelligence. So I have gone for NDR-113, or Andrew in Isaac Asimov's The Positronic Man. Now, most people will know it from the truly fantastic Robin Williams film, but it's also a remarkable book that explores what it means to be human, if we can be human if we're not mortal, for example. And it's an idea that is so beautifully explored. Number 7, Tiffany Aching. The question has to be most competent or favourite young hero. Now, there were several I could choose from here, and I was very tempted to say Firin Lindenshield from the Ice Mark series, which I have to say are very, very good. A little childish at times, but still fantastic, and it has one of my favourite villains in. But I've decided to go with the Harry Potter world again and say Hermione Granger. If I really need to explain why Hermione Granger is the best young hero, then I don't think you've read the books properly. I mean, Harry is great, certainly, but Hermione is truly brilliant. It's her and her thoughts and her research that allow them to find the Horcruxes in the first place. Without her, they'd be completely lost. Number 8, the hermit elephant. Favourite fictionalized animal. That's an animal which exists in the real world, but has been taken a little bit and taken further. A hermit elephant is an elephant which, because of its incredibly thin skin, will walk into a hut and stand up with it and use it like a shell. And I thought that was hilarious and absolutely brilliant. But the one I've chosen are direwolves from A Song of Ice and Fire. Technically not fictionalized versions of real animals, in that direwolves are completely real. They've just been dead for 10,000 years. But given that they're dead, it must be fictionalized, so it works. Number 9, Vorbis. Most loathsome villain. I have to say Jardis from The Chronicles of Narnia and The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, she of course being the White Witch. I can feel absolutely no empathy for her whatsoever. She destroyed her own world in a fight with her sister just to prove that she could do it, and then she moves on to another world, and once she was in that other world she proceeded to try to conquer it, give it eternal winter. It's not good. Number 10, Teotame, or Tea Time if you want to go how it's written and the name that he really hates. Favourite villain, because Teotame is truly hilarious. I would have to say the Joker from the Batman comics, but specifically in the Alan Moore comic The Killing Joke. It's truly brilliant, and the Joker is the only clown I find scary. He is the Batman's antithesis, and a fantastic, fantastic villain. 11, and I've run out of fingers again. Dorfel, who is the first free golem in the world, and this is the best freedom from slavery or emancipation novel. I'd have to say for this one, without a doubt, 12 Years a Slave by Solomon Northup. And I'd have to say it's brilliant, and the film is also brilliant. And what's most potent about it is that it is a true story. This man really was held for 12 years, and when he was finally free, he wrote what happened to him. Obviously, I'm not glad that it did happen to him, but that he could share the story with the world. It makes me happy. Number 12 then, I'd have to say Vimes, or should I say Sir Samuel Vimes, His Grace the Duke of Ankh, but he would hate that too. For this one I could have gone for several characters. Most cynical git in it, all fiction. Favourite economic theory. I mean, you have to read that one actually, The Theory of the Boots, it's fascinating. But I've gone for the obvious, the favourite fictional detective. According to my calculations, it has to be the most famous detective of all. Even the Vimes would hate him, thinking he was a posh toff, with no real basis for what he was doing. The Master Detective, Sherlock Holmes. Bonus question, foul or run? With Bugrit, Millennium and Shrimp. Now, nobody has a clue what Millennium and Shrimp means, although some people think it might possibly be a reference to the Particle Man song. But this question is most interesting or funniest fictional swear word or curse word if you're American. And I have to say Belgium from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It is the most offensive word in the universe, but no one has a clue why, just like Bugrit, Millennium and Shrimp. Assuming Bugrit, Millennium and Shrimp is actually meant to be a swear word because it's not explicitly stated. It seems to be one of the few words Ron can say, but the assumption is generally made. Okay, that's it for this week. Of course, this may seem like an unusual tribute to Sir Terry. given that it's not much about him or his work specifically, but using them as a gateway to others. But that's what his works were. They were a parody and a reflection of real things, so it works. The influence that this man's writing has had on my life cannot be understated. When I found out that he died the other day, I cried for hours. The last person I did that for was my granddad. But anyway, I hope you liked the video. Feel free to have a go at this already. I'm going to tag things Lucy reads, and if she manages to set up the channel, my good friend Raven. I had a lot of fun making it, and I hope that this honours Sir Terry's memory. Click like and subscribe, and check back next week for another video. Bye. Go on then. You're probably not watching to this bit. I'm a bit bored really. I feel so lonely. Should probably go back to my talking potatoes.